Hey, what's up, gang? It's Adam and Lowry from the Commander Smiths, and we are here for somewhat budget upgrades, but we have a little twist that we like to add to these budget upgrades. So how is this all working out, Lowry? We're doing the Bloomburrow and all that.
Yeah, so we got the Bloomburrow Precons, and what we do is we split them up. Adam has the Squirrel deck and the animation red-green raccoon deck. I have the cute bunny and the flying bird token thing. And what we do is we have a $20 budget, and we try and get some cheap cards in there that can really help your deck out. And then we also have an unlimited, Mr. Unlimited budget section.
Mr. Unlimited.
Yeah, Mr. Unlimited.
Our friend Russell Wilson gave us that sounder. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And then we just go no limit on whatever
some other ads.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part with that, you know, we first started doing this, we'd be like, hey, add Teferi's protection in, add blah, blah, blah. We've kind of taken that out a little bit, you know, and it's more just going back to the theme of it. Of course, you can add those cards in, but we're trying to grab some other cards that would make sense in the deck, so it kind of fit in the theme. So, but yeah, $20 budget beginning, everything under $20, or the total is $20 or less.
Or under.
Yep. And then we'll get to the Mr. Unlimited. We don't have a limit there. So, Lowry is going to be starting us off. So what deck are we going to be talking about first?
We're going to be talking about Peace Offering, which is green, white, blue. And little Mrs. Bumbleflower is the lead card here. Yeah, she's nice. She'll make you some lunch or something. I don't know. At a picnic. One in a green and a white and a blue for a 1/5 rabbit citizen, has vigilance. And whenever you cast the spell, target opponent draws a card. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature. That's any creature, probably going to be your own. And then it
gains flying.
It gains flying until end of turn as well. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, you draw 2 cards.
2? That's kind of nice. So it's almost like a group hug, except it's like a single hug. It's like, hey, I want to hug you. Here's a card. Right. And then if you get to be able to do 2 spells, then you get to draw the 2 cards, and it doesn't feel like you're hurting. So what is this deck?
I think the thing though is too, like, it makes you feel like it stops at 2, but every time you cast a spell, it's a counter and one of your creatures and flying, and they draw a card.
Whenever you cast target.
Whenever you cast a spell,
so you are still, like, even when you're drawing your 2 cards, somebody else is also drawing a card. Right.
Yeah. So you go cast a spell, you draw a card, I get a counter and flying, and then I cast my second spell. Somebody gets to draw. You get to draw 2, counter, fly.
Okay.
And then if you want to cast another one, somebody else, and nothing
happens there. So
you still get the 1 counter and flying,
but you don't get the bonus of the 2 draws.
Yeah, it doesn't just stop at 2.
But it does also say it doesn't have a restriction of only on your turn. So you could potentially play instance on other people's turns to take advantage of that.
That's very true. I did not add in anything that would help you with that, but if you go Ley Line of Singularity.
Oh, you mean
the blue Anticipation?
The blue
there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, Anticipation or the artifact. You'll be good to go. You know,
Vedelkin Orrery.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. You're the savant tonight here.
Well, no, it's because I was looking at that for cards in my deck, and it was one of the cards I was like, do I want to add that?
How about let's go Alchemist Refuge? Perfect in this deck. There we go.
Okay. How about Winding Canyons? Except that's creatures. That doesn't open that up. Okay, so what did you find? Do you want to get right to the cards, or do you want to? Is there things that you wanted to add in?
No, I mean, so we could just go to the budget section. I chose 11 cards, and it came in at $14 on the nuts.
Ooh.
One thing is when you are choosing which opponent targets, that is committing a crime. So Duelist of the Mind.
That's a good point.
1 in a blue.
Like that idea.
Its power is for as many cards of you as you've drawn that turn. Flying, vigilance, and then whenever you commit a crime, once per turn, you get to draw a card and discard a card. So in this instance, you draw your hand, normal card. That's 1.
Mm-hmm.
Play a spell. Somebody does, you're priming, so you draw a card, discard a card. Cast another spell, draw 2 more cards. So it's a 4/3 flying vigilance for 2. Pretty easy with your commander out.
Yeah. That's nice. So I like that for a 2-drop there. That's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, and that's under $1. Next one I want to talk about, a Dusk Legion Duelist. 2/2 Vigilance. Whenever you put a 1/1 counter on it, you get to draw a card. Only happens once per turn, but that's cheap value. Again, under $1 in that regard.
Because you're adding the 1/1 counter from your commander, and you're getting a draw, so that each time,
Right.
well, it only does it the one time, right? You said that.
Yeah, just the once. But if
So
if you are
first one.
casting once per turn,
Yeah.
that can get nice and big right there.
I like that. All right, and it would gain the flying too, so that would be till the end of turn. All right, so then we got another 2-drop. Look at all these low.
This is just gaining value and
Yeah.
a bunch of trying to have a lot of synergies with the commander there. But Emrakul's Messenger came out in MH3 just last month or whatever. But 2/1 flyer for 2. Whenever you draw your second card, you get to create a little Eldrazi spawn.
Yeah,
And so just more creatures.
I wanted this in my other Eldrazi deck, but I like it. I look for this, especially because you're drawing 2 cards, is what the idea of it. So you're getting some rocks built in on it a little bit.
Yeah, I already put this card in 2 decks, and it's pretty solid. It's in Rafine, where I'm drawing a bunch of cards anyway, and then also in Zamon and Dina, which is I'm trying to draw multiple cards per turn and create tokens, so it's perfect in there.
Nice.
Next one, another MH3 card, Evolution Witness, and it has Adapt. It doesn't matter to me, but it's a 2/1 for 3. And whenever you put a counter on it, you can return a permanent spell from your graveyard to your hand.
And you could do that more than once, so that's kind of nice.
So every time you put 1 or more on there, so every spell you cast, you can put a counter on it and then bring a permanent back into your hand.
I dig
so
that.
That's plenty of value in that regard as well.
There's your recursion. You love your recursion, and that's a machine
people
right
like
there.
removing my shit. So
oh man, I haven't seen this card played for a minute here, so I'm interested to see.
Forever. Floodgate, 05 Defender, 4 mana. Whenever it gains flying, sacrifice it, and whenever it leaves the battlefield, it deals damage equal to damage to non-blue creatures without flying, equal to the number of islands you control, rounded down. So half of it rounded down.
So you're having like a little bit of a mass removal, but if you give your stuff flying, it'll save your stuff, right? Am I thinking that right?
You could do that. You're running a blue deck, so a lot of your creatures are going to be blue. There's going to be flying in there a bit already. And yeah, you can just choose to give it creatures that are going to be fine or that might die, give them flying, and then give Floodgate flying to
wipe
not
everybody
lose
else
as much for sure.
Yeah, I like that.
So, thought that was a fun little one. That's cheaper than cheap.
Yeah.
That
no,
is.
It's like a free. It's not even a penny, maybe.
It said 3 cents.
Oh, okay.
So that. And I don't know. You might find that in a Kleenex box or something. Like that's cheap. Next one, Free Strider Lookout. That is 3 mana. It has reach, and this is whenever you commit a crime. So you're committing plenty of crimes in this deck. You get to look at the top 4 cards or 5 cards of your deck and put a land from them into play tapped.
Nice.
There is no limit per turn. Like every time you get to cast a spell, you get to look at the top 5 cards.
It does say this ability triggers only once each turn.
Oh, I was definitely cheating with it before. Don't tell number 2. All right.
It's at the very end.
Yeah, okay, once per turn. That's still really good.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So every time you cast a spell, basically get a land into play.
Mm-hmm. That's good ramp right there, and it's a 3-drop, so it's kind of like your good rock area. Oh,
again,
I like
under $1 at this point, or right around $1.
Are a son of a bee. I see this one. We're not going to talk about him yet, but I do like I do like this one.
Master Ceremonies is the most expensive one in this. It's at a little over $6. But this is a 3/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent chooses money, friends, or secrets. For each player who chooses money, you each get a treasure. So them and you. And then that's kind of what I'm assuming is going to happen. Is that most people, you're having them draw, so they're going to want to play more.
Yeah.
And so my assumption is you get 3 treasures, treasure. And if not, they're drawing more cards, and you get to draw cards off that. And that totally works.
I don't think anybody's going to make a 1/1 green and white citizen, so I think that one, when I played
unless
this
they're
card,
really needing chump blocks or whatever.
Whenever I've played this card, it's always the treasure or the drawing. Most of the time it's the drawing, but like you're saying, you're already having them draw, so you might get more treasure in this. I agree with that. But let's talk about a D-Gen card in here. Look at you put in this. I have it in a deck too. I won't deny that. But what are you doing with Nadu, man?
All right, Nadu, Winged Wisdom. If you don't know what it's doing, it's whenever you target one of your creatures or anybody targets it twice per turn, you get to look at the top card. If it's a land, put it into play tapped. If not, put it in your hand. So when you're putting the 1/1 counter, each spell that you're doing it, again, it's very much like Lookout in this deck, where you get to like put lands from the deck into play and or into your hand. And this is not a combo piece, it's just a straight value piece. You get to do it for as many times as like cards as you can play that turn, basically. And so I think it's
good.
Fair in this deck, and
as long as you don't have that little loop of 0, attaching.
Right.
I get it. Like that's where it's in my deck too. It has nothing to do with, not in any of these that we're talking about, but a deck that I built.
Yeah, and I did the same.
Yeah. It's more for you're getting those triggers on your turn or whatever, and it's not an infinite thing or even like a 10-minute turn. So I dig it.
Nadu's an asshole, but it's like a little over $3 at this point,
which is crazy. So, I remember when this came out, I was able to sell one for $20, and now it's sub 5, which is crazy.
Everybody's just like, this is gonna
get banned. Yep. So everybody's trying to dump it.
They just got rid of it
as fast as possible. All right, we got an enchantment here.
Another one on the trail, 2-mana enchantment. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you may put a land from your hand into play tapped.
Oh, okay.
So
you're drawing
nice
cards.
little value of just drawing. You like if you're able to trigger them once per turn, Mrs. Butterflower or whatever, you're drawing 2 cards and you're going to be able to drop a land. So that's kind of the aim there.
And
next one,
this one I was gonna say, and then this one we liked this card a lot. I have it in a deck or two, but I think this makes sense in here. Go ahead. Sorry, what is it?
Yeah, Smuggler's Share, 3-mana enchantment. This was huge for a while. They have been reprinting it, so it's under $2 right now.
Jeez.
And at the beginning of each end step, each one draw a card for each opponent who drew 2 or more cards this turn. So thusly, if you can force them to draw an extra card on their turn, you get another card without having to try too hard at it. And then if they put more than 2 lands into play, you get a treasure.
Yeah.
And so that is whatever, but it's just here to be able to draw more cards.
Yeah,
you're going to be drawing like crazy.
I think if you go on the side of like instance and playing spells on other people's turns, this is easy. Like you said, you can just cast one spell. They're drawing 2 cards. Now you're drawing a card, or is it 2 cards? Just 1 card, or 2 cards? No, 1. Yeah, I draw 1 card. Sorry. But yeah, I like this. I think that's a good ad, especially when you're forcing somebody. I dig that one. And they got one more here. What is this little guy?
Student of Elements. This might be 20 cents, but 2-mana, 1/1. When Student of Elements has flying, flip it, and the flip side says creatures you control have flying, and it's a 3/3. So it gives all your creatures flying as long as you can easily give it flying in this deck. Right. So it's a real cheap, easy ad to have all the flying.
So once it flips, it doesn't have to flip back.
Correct. It stays there. Because your creatures gain flying until it is removed.
That's kind of nice because yours is temporary anyway, so that works out perfect for that.
Yep.
I like that. All right, so remind us again. What was your total?
So that's 11 cards that you can add in for $14 if you don't have some of them already just laying around.
Right, and really you have one of the big costs was the Master of Ceremonies right there, so that makes sense.
And if you like buying Precons, you might already have that.
Yeah.
And Robocop's already complaining about Nadu. What treachery is this?
Well, let's get into the Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited.
Now you have no budget. How many? Oh, you got 6 cards we're adding in here. So what do we got for our Mr. Unlimited section?
Got Consecrated Sphinx. So when you force them to draw, you get to draw 2. It's gonna be a lot. That's a lot right there. Fairy Mastermind. This is, I want to say $7, $8. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you get to draw a card. So very similar to the Smuggler's Share in that regard. Just cheap and easy and good to go. You have Psychic Possession, which is 4 mana enchantment. Skip your draw step, but whenever enchanted opponent draws a card, you may draw a card.
Oh, I like that too. Yeah.
And so if you put it on a player and you just choose them continually to draw a card, you also get to draw that card.
So you're getting the same benefit as they are, and then you still get your benefit from your commander. And in Smothering Tithe here, like, normally I'm like, hey, that's a staple that you're just throwing in. But no, it makes sense here because what are you doing? You're making them draw cards.
You get to just force them to draw, and thusly you get more treasures to do more. Like, it's a huge mana. It's not only really good all the time, it's really, really good in this kind of deck.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, and I think you need that because you are having them draw more cards. So you need to have an advantage somewhere, and I think this card gives it to you.
For sure. That's one I'd for sure want to add in there. All right, we got 2 more here.
All right, you got Tameo, Inquisitive Student, which is the new one from MH3. It's whenever you draw your 3rd card on a turn, you get to flip it, and at end of turn, you get to create a clue token. We don't need to flip the other. It's a $30 card at this point. It's just value. It's really cheap. And you can put counters on it as a 1-drop flying already, but it's going to be a pretty cool card. It's just Planeswalker value. And then the last one, Teferi's Temporal Pilgrim, 5 mana Planeswalker. Whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on it. You can +0 to draw a card, -2 to create basically a Chasm Skulker, but a 2/2 that whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on it. And then the ultimate is something like somebody returns a card to their hand, and then everything.
Yeah, target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to their hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into their library.
Right.
And if you're drawing tons of cards, you can get to this ultimate pretty easily because every time you draw, you're putting a loyalty counter on. So yeah, that's pretty brutal there, Lowry. I
so
like
Teferi's pretty sweet in any deck that you're drawing a ton of like that's the main theme when you're drawing a ton of cards. And this is kind of a game ender for at least a player.
You're killing a player there. All right. Okay, so that was the budget upgrades, the Mr. Unlimited upgrades. If you guys have some suggestions that you would like to add to the deck, please let us know in the comments.
I do like the idea of the instant speed version as well. And I don't think that negates what I'm adding. I think what you end up doing is in the main deck, you're taking out a lot of the +1 counter stuff.
Yep.
So
no, I totally agree. I think it's more of manipulating the what they already have in the Precon. So a little bit more if you wanted to go that angle. And that's a lot of these decks there's an angle you can go to on some of this stuff that you could spend a little bit more money. But this is just if you wanted to really upgrade it a little bit, the budget part. So really quick, I do want to say, make sure you guys like this. If you're watching right now, whenever you're watching this, give it a like. That helps us out. Just wanted to say that right now in the middle of the video, except if this is split up, it's not the middle, but whatever. All right, let's go to the next deck. That one will be mine. And
which one is this one? Is this the squirrels?
No, it's going to be the Animated Army.
This is going to be interesting.
Okay, so really quick, you can see all of these if you follow us on Moxfield Commander Smiths. We do have all the upgrades there, so you guys can check that out. And I will try to link this in the section below afterwards. So, but you can see all the upgrades we've done for any of the decks. So if you had a Precon that you wanted to see from like last year, if we were doing it by then, you could check those out too and just see what we added. So, okay. So Animated Army. The big thing here is, and I'm not going to show you the deck, but I'll tell you what the commander is. So it's Bellow Bard of the Brambles. It's 1 red, green. And basically, it's a Raccoon Bard. What it does at the beginning of your turn, so it's not, combat, it's on your turn. All your non-equipment artifacts, all your non-aura enchantments, so just basically your straight-up artifacts, your straight-up enchantments, with mana value 4 or higher, turn into 4/4 elemental creatures in addition to their other types, and then they have haste and indestructible. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, it gains this. Whenever a creature deals combat to a player, you draw a card. So, I actually didn't catch the haste part. So there might be one card in my budget part that I might cut out because I think I did add one thing. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
You can just cut it and mid video. Just
right.
like
Just that one's gone.
didn't exist.
Because to me it was the trample and the 4/4 and the drawing part. I didn't even catch the haste part. So the thing that the deck is lacking is there's very limited. Like I think there was only like 4, 5, maybe 6 artifacts that were 4 or higher. And then going to enchantments, I think it's about the same number. So if your deck is built around this idea, it's like, well, why wouldn't you do that more? Like
honestly, you need more than 20.
Right.
To like, if that's the theme, if that's the main theme, and really you want to push it up to like 30. Right. So
yeah, no, totally agree. So
seems odd that they had under 20.
Right. And I didn't get that part at all. It had a lot of big, higher casting cost creatures and all that, whatever in the deck. They had a lot of ramp in the beginning, ramp creatures, mana dorks.
I get that.
So I think you could go a couple different angles. You could lean one way or the other. You could go more on the artifact side and make it easy so you can cast stuff because then you're playing 2 colors, but 2 colors is easy to cast stuff. So, or you could go lean
and
more,
green.
yeah, or you can lean more on like the enchantment side and then get some of those like enchantment drawing cards when you cast enchantments, or you can kind of do a split down the middle. I went straight up just enchantments because I've been building, I built my Tom Bombadil deck, which is enchantments and all that stuff. So I kind of have like stuff in my head that I was like, oh, I want these in here. And what I did here was more enchantments that are good, that are naturally just good in play, but to make them creatures and drawing you cards, like I want them to have like a static ability that's always like at the beginning of your upkeep, this happens. But now when they're a creature, indestructible, haste, and drawing you cards, they're 10 times better. So let's get to some of those.
Right. Well, I do want to hit a little bit on what you're talking about there when you're talking about leaning one way or the other and you're fully going into enchantments. And I might have missed you saying this, but basically what that allows you to do is skew your support cards towards your enchantment. So Enchantress style deck is here. So, whenever you cast an enchantment, you get to draw a card, which is really helpful for decks. Yeah. And then secondarily, you get to choose your hate cards a bit better. So if you're really light on your artifacts, your artifact removal can be superior, really good, aggressive, and things like that. And so I like, me personally, I don't like splitting the difference. Like
I normally go
Artful
one way.
Provocateur, when you can be artifacts and enchantments and have a lot of good value there. I went enchantment, and then a year later I went artifact because they're very different decks that way. And so that also allows these decks to be different if you want to choose and go, I want to go an enchantment route. Oh, my buddy wants to go an artifact route. And having choices is always a nice thing.
Yep. And like you're saying there, if you do one way and then change it to the other way, it makes it a completely different deck. Like like when you go enchantment and you're like, oh, I'm going to go artifacts. That deck is completely different. Like, yeah, it's doing similar things, but the cards that are in it make it completely different and flow very differently. So, okay, so I leaned on the enchantment side of things. And so first off the bat here, we have Abundance, which is a good card. If you would draw a card, you may instead choose land or non-land and reveal cards to the top of your library until you find whatever one you chose. And then you put that card in your hand. So it's making it so like, hey, I already have enough mana. I want to get a non-land card from now. So it kind of almost like setting your top a little bit. Not really. It's just, I already have enough mana. I don't need that. Oh, I'm lacking mana. I need to get this. So it's kind of nice that way. But when it turns into a 4/4, because this is a CMC 4 or higher, and it also can draw you cards, haste, and all that indestructible, really nice there. Asceticism. Did I say it right there?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. So we're adding a little bit of a, you want to hit that button so bad. We're adding
just because. Hey, can I? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why?
She can't even read.
It's true.
You did fine, but the questioning makes me hit the button.
So 5-drop, it just protects your creatures from abilities and spells your opponents control, but then also has regeneration.
It gives them hexproof.
Yeah, hexproof. Yeah, it's before hexproof. But then it also has regeneration built in on it. I know your stuff is getting indestructible on your turn, and then they turn back into whatever, but giving that extra regeneration, and then this one turning into a creature, just fantastic. City on Fire. So this one, with all of your stuff, all these enchantments changing over, you can then, because it's on your turn. So you can cast this before your attack. So you can tap down some of those enchantments that turn over that you don't want to attack with. And now you're doing triple damage. Yes, triple damage because you use the Convoke to get that mana cost down. This is also a 4/4, so you're also attacking with it because the haste part that I didn't know that was on there. So that's also really good. That one's just a crazy good card. And then this is going to be pretty nice. I added 3 courts into this. 4 courts. One of the courts are too expensive, which is in the Mr. Unlimited.
4 quarts of the gallon.
I don't have my want. Let me get it.
Perfect.
No. Oh, dad jokes.
Look, if you don't have the button ready, that's not my fault.
No, I had to go back.
I understand that we're doing something else here, but that was a good joke.
All right, so the courts. This is what's kind of nice about all of them. You get this court in, you become the monarch. So you're gonna be monarch is at the end of your turn. You draw, right? If you are the monarch, right? Is that how that works? Yes.
At the end of turn, yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna get to draw cards. It's replacing itself. And then beginning of your upkeep, you can put a land card from your hand on the battlefield. If you're the monarch, instead you may put a creature card or a land card. So yes, if we're going heavier on the enchantments, you won't really have a creature a lot of time. I mean, you will. There's still creatures in the deck. But a lot of times this is going to get you some ramp. You're going to play lands. You're going to draw a card at least for the first time. And if you still have your creature or you're the monarch, on your next turn, you get to draw again. So I like all the courts in here if possible. So we'll talk about the other 2. And the 4th one's in the other one. So then this court is going to give you a 3/1 token. And then if you are the monarch, it deals X damage to each opponent where X is the number of creatures you control. So it's at the beginning of your upkeep, all of your enchantments flip over to creatures. So as long as you're the monarch, you're doing a lot of damage across the board. And this is also giving you a creature that doesn't go away. It doesn't sacrifice at the end of turn. So that's kind of nice. And then we got Court of Ire, which is the 2 damage to any target. If you are the monarch, it's 7 damage instead. So kind of some spot removal, I guess, with the Court of Ire, and maybe player removal if you kind of target somebody with that 7.
Hitting that 7.
Yeah. So there's 3 courts in there. We got, like we mentioned earlier, the Eidolon of Blossoms. So this is utilizing the enchantments. You're drawing when you get your enchantments, but it's also, here's a question I have for you, and I was thinking about it. This is still an enchantment. So this would turn into a 4/4 elemental spirit with indestructible and haste, right? Am I thinking that right?
I would have to reread the commander.
Here, let me go back to it. Just because this is what I was trying to. So it says during your turn, each non-equipment artifact and non-aura enchantment you control with mana value 4 or greater is a 4/4 elemental creature. So it is that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So it would change into a 4/4 indestructible.
I don't know if it retains the creature type or not.
It does.
I don't know if it's still a spirit, but it's definitely an elemental.
And its other types as
elemental
creature in addition to its other types. So so it would be a spirit elemental, which is negligible. Like the spirit doesn't matter. But anyways,
in this deck for sure.
Right. But with this, you're drawing every time you're playing your enchantment stuff. So that's really nice there. Elven Chorus, another 4-drop. It's giving you turning your creatures to be able to tap for mana. You can play creature spells from the top of your library. Like I said, you're probably lower on the creature side of things, but it's making it so you can tap your stuff for mana. And then also you can look at the top card of your library. I put this in so many decks right now. I'm playing a lot of creature decks.
I've noticed, yeah.
I like it a lot. And it's not that expensive. I don't have the number right there. No, it's not showing up. So, but I dig this one a lot. Like I said, there's 15 cards in here because all these are cheap.
I like how every choice that you possibly could make for Lord of the Rings, you did.
And another one, Gimli's Reckless Might. This is the one I can take out. But creatures you control have haste whenever you attack. If a creature, wait. If a creature control of power 8 or greater, target attacking creature you control fights up to one target creature you don't control. So
that's nice removal.
Yeah, so a little bit of removal there. Glorious Sunrise, so we get a mode with this. You either give all your creatures 1/1 and trample, which is kind of nice because that is one thing it's lacking. Or you can give a land that taps for 3, or you draw a card if you control. Of course, if you have a creature 4 or greater, or 3 or greater. or you gain life. So you're probably drawing a card off of this each turn. Dig that. And then we got a couple more. Into the Wilds. Begin your upkeep. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it in the battlefield. Nature's Will. You play with this one, right? More or no?
It's so good.
Yeah, I was going to say, you play with this one. I've seen you play with this one. Whenever one or more creatures deals combat damage to a player, tap all the lands that player controls, untap all yours. So your second main phase, now you're casting more stuff when your stuff gets...
And if you're able... Now, not in this deck necessarily, but if you're able to hit multiple opponents, you can untap your lands multiple times within the attack phase. And so if you can do instant speed or activated abilities within that and use that mana and tap it and it'll untap in response, that is really, really big where it happens. Like, again, not in this deck, but my dream is to do it with like Jin Gataxias and just be able to untap a bunch and just get it out real early.
Just be a dick.
Yeah.
All right, and then we got 3 more here. So Rage Reflection, we're just doing double strike on everything, but it also can attack. The only saga I put in here, but this one sits out longer. That was my problem with the sagas, is you're playing them out. They are going to disappear. Yeah, you can attack with them and all that, but I'd like them to stick around more. This one does some stuff, though. So it comes in, you can do 4 damage to a creature, and then the next 4 turns, you're getting a card advantage. You can play that card each turn, and then the last one is you get 6 red. So I dig that for 4. You're getting this around. This is probably going to be around the whole game when you get this out. I mean, that's 6 turns that it's out there, and so you're getting 1 card advantage.
And it's already mid to late game at that point anyway.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
Yeah. So, and then the last one is Wilderness Reclamation. So, again, untapping all your stuff. I don't know if this one fits necessarily because it's at the beginning or at the end step. And I have to look at the other cards in the deck, but I don't think there was a lot of like instant speed or tapping stuff. So this one could be cut. I kind of just still had it in here because if you wanted to, if you had other spells you wanted, it's a good idea because it's a 4-drop. That's a great card. All right, now down. Oh, really quick. This total, I got really close. $19.89. So I still have 11.
That is really close. Yeah.
I still have 11 cents to go. But all right, Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited.
One question.
Yep.
And I don't think anything's going to be in the upgrades, and I don't know what the Precon deck list is, but are there ley lines in the Precon that are played for free? Because they're 4 mana enchantments.
That's a good point. I don't remember them having ley lines.
Because the legend really reminds me of the card Opalescence, and there's like a old legacy deck where you would have every ley line that you could play for free, and then you would drop them all at the beginning, before the game starts.
Right.
And then you get up to 4 mana, play Opalescence, and then you're attacking with a crew.
Yeah.
So
I think because I had looked at, actually, I don't think they are because I had looked at the ley lines, but each of them, like for the green and red, are like, like I love the other colors better than green and reds are kind of just mediocre at best. So I leaned on the courts is where I went instead. So it's kind of a similar idea because I was like, oh, ley lines, courts, whatever. So anyway, speaking of that, Court of Garenbrig right here. That's the one I was talking about. This one's going to get your creatures bigger. And then if you're the monarch, you double all 1/1 counters, which is nice. Oh, except this court is only a 3-drop. So that one is gone.
I mean, all right.
Boom. It's gone.
Even though it's the best one?
I know, but we need 4. That's what we're looking for. All right. So then here's some like artifact stuff that I kind of mixed in. So we got Aetherflux. Hey, let's have Aetherflux be a creature. I would say Akroma's Memorial would be a game winner, giving everything flying, vigilance, trample. We already have the haste, but black and protection from black and red, that seems like a game winner there. Conduit of Worlds. I had this in there. It's only a couple bucks, but I was trying to get in the budget. So I still think it's a great card because you're playing cards from your graveyard, your land from your graveyard. Has a little bit of recursion potentially on that. Eldrazi Monument. Yeah, let's attack with our Eldrazi Monument with 4/4 flying, indestructible, all that. Of course, I have to add Lifeline in here. I mean, it's an artifact, and now your creatures don't die. Omen Path Journey. This one I wasn't as familiar with because, it's new. Yeah. But when it enters, you get to look at the top 5 land or search up search your library for 5 land cards with different names. Then you exile them at the beginning of your end step. Choose a card at random from the exile that was put there with this, and then you put it under the battlefield tab. So it's giving you a little bit of land. And then we got Tamio's Journal, so making clues, and then you can sacrifice them to get any card. Sure, Great Henge. It's an artifact. Let's make it a creature. So that's there. One ring again. Yeah, it's
One ring is good in there.
That's a 4. There and back again. That's a saga I'd be willing to let die after 3 turns because you get a 6/6 out of it. And then, like you had mentioned earlier, it's like you could read my mind. If you lean heavier on one thing, if you play Ward of Bones and you don't play any artifacts, then people can't play artifacts. If you lean more on the artifacts and didn't play enchantments, people aren't playing enchantments. If you don't play creatures, because it's on their turn, they're going to be casting their creatures. Your enchantments turn back, or your creatures that turned into, or enchantments that turn into creatures now turn back into enchantments. So now you don't have the creatures anymore. You know, you only have like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So now they
That's
can't
a really
cast.
good card in there for sure.
Yeah,
I agree.
So yeah, these are some of the stuff that I would add.
And I mean, like one thing that I really like, you know, obviously the Great Henge is really good, but just having that cost reduction of a big card, I think is great.
Yeah.
And so I would probably lean into that as much as possible, but that'd be my style. Of just trying to have like cost reduced artifacts and enchantments.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha. Of adding some stuff.
And I don't know how many there are. Like I liked, is it Burn the City where it triples the damage and stuff with the Convoke?
Not Burn.
City on Fire, Burn the City, something
City
like
on
that.
Fire.
Like that. I really, really like that idea, City on Fire. Yeah. So something like that, that's 8. But if you're long in the game, it's not going to be 8.
Yeah.
You know, you can use your commander in a certain way like that. Like, there's not a lot of options that are coming to mind, but those 2 are definitely good adds.
Yeah, and what I would say is if you're able to lean in, like the thing is, I would change this deck out a lot. That's what I said.
Right. There, it
was
sounds like
lacking.
there's some work. That
yeah,
needs to be
so I
done.
was like, there was more I'd want to do, but if you added these cards, the budget 15 cards, I think it would really change that deck quite a bit. So, all right, let's move on to the next deck. Lowry, that is you, and we are dealing with Family Matters.
This is red, white, blue deck. And then the main commander is Zinnia, Valley's Voice. It is a blue, red, white, 1/3 flyer. It gets +X+0, where X is the number of other creatures you control with base power 1. And then creature spells you cast have Offspring, which is
kind of cool.
pay 2 mana, make a copy of it, but it's a 1/1 instead.
Yeah, so that's cool because then you can actually like not have to worry about the creatures you put in the deck because you just do the Offspring thing, and it's making at least one of them. You're getting a duplicate, but you're also getting a bump from one of that. I like that.
And so no matter what, you're creating 1/1s. Just talking about them a little bit. This is a, you know, it's an ETB deck in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're going to make 2 of the creatures, they should be doing something, you know. It could be considered like a token deck. You could, you know, and then those are the thoughts that I have. And also, I really like that it's +X+0, so it puts a threat later on in the game as you build up probably a token army, you know. So that's kind of how I looked at Zinnia.
Dig it. And the interesting thing, if people are watching, obviously the X+0 is not taking, like if you have a 1/1, now it's a 2/1, and now this doesn't work. It's saying the base power, so it's saying before the bonus. I mean, that's kind of self-explanatory, but it does seem a little confusing because it's like, oh, you're making 1/1, but now it's bigger, so that doesn't work. But no, that's why they say the base power. Anyways, all right. You got 10 budget upgrades in this deck. All right, what's our
10
first
cards at the budget part? Yeah, I kind of looked at Populate and really kind of liked the idea of it because you can make copies of a specific token that's nice in that at that time. So you have the new Kaeth Famed Mechanist. So all your non-token creatures come in with Fabricate, which is either a 1/1 counter or a servo token.
So I make those
and then you can pay 2, tap Kaeth, and then you either Populate or Proliferate, which is likely going to be a Populate in this deck. Under a buck right now, super cheap. Next one is Determined Iteration. It's 2 mana enchantment, red. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to populate So any of your creature tokens, you're turning all of your creatures into also a token version. And so again, you're going to have tokens in this deck. You're going to make copies of it, and then you got to sacrifice that copy at the end of combat.
End step.
Or end step.
So you get some time if you had some sack outlets.
Yeah.
I like it. Dig it.
So Flame, and that one's $4. I was a little surprised by that. But
that is interesting.
But I still fit under budget.
There you go.
Flame Shadow Conjuring.
I like this card.
Whenever a non-token creature ETBs, you can pay a red to make a copy of it, sacrifice it at the end of the next end step. So it's kind of like a backup, but also in addition to Zinnia. So if people are removing Zinnia, you can still pay the red to make a copy of it.
But if you played something and you're doing like this is magical Christmas. So you play something, you're paying the 2 for the offspring, you're getting that second one. You can also pay the 1 to make another copy of that, but then can't you pay a 2 again to make an offspring of that one?
No, non-token
because it's cast. Oh, no.
This is an ETB.
Wait. I'm just reading offspring. Hang on. It's cast. Okay, that's where I'm losing it. Cast. Yep. So the copy is not cast. So you get 3. You get the original bloop and then the bloop copy here. So you get 3 total. Okay, got it.
Which is pretty nice. Again, with those ETBs, you're going to get a lot of value. Like it makes it worth it. Next one I want to talk about is Fury. This version's under $4.
Yeah.
But basically it dropped a lot, quite a bit once it got banned in Modern.
Yeah.
I want to say.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a free spell. You are evoking it, in my opinion, and you're dealing damage. You're paying 2 off the evoke cost to make another copy of it and do more removal.
4 damage again.
Yeah, so basically it's exile a red card from your hand, pay 2 mana, deal 8 damage any way you so wish. And that seems really good.
And the second one stays in play. The offspring.
I don't know. You want to go back to Zinnia? Because I believe it's making a copy of it, and generally copies retain
if you do when that creature doesn't. You may pay an additional as you cast this creature spell. If you do, when that creature enters, create a 1/1 copy of it. Okay, so it retains that.
So generally, from my thought, is it would retain the sacrifice part of the evoke on it. That would, I could be wrong, but I think that's how that would work. But still,
you're doing 8 damage for getting rid of one card.
Getting rid of a red card from your hand and paying 2 mana to deal 8 damage however you want. That's a really good deal in itself.
Yep. All right. Then we got
Ghostly Flicker. I want to say that's 50 cents, something like that. But exile 2 target artifacts, creatures, and or lands you control, then return them to the battlefield under your control. So it's Flicker. It's helping with the ETBs going on. And that can be like, if you're trying to, I would use it as my protection. And there's Eerie Interlude, and there's a couple of versions of this, and Ephemerate. You can use those cards as protection to protect your creatures, and then if somebody's not removing it, then you use it in an aggressive mode for your ETBs.
For the ETB.
Yeah. So it works really nicely in that regard. Next one, Ingot Chewer, under $1 again. This is that I really like the idea of the evoke and reducing the costs, as I said during yours, where like reducing the cost. And so paying red 2 colorless to destroy 2 artifacts. And if you have any ETB doublers like Panharmonicon that's coming up next, you're in business. You're getting a lot of value off of that.
All right, let's get to Panharmonicon.
Panharmonicon, that's under $4.
It's crazy.
It's just doubling the ETB effects. Yeah, they've been reprinting it quite a bit. So make sure you get what you want, because it's a good card.
And then one of your babies, and I play this a lot.
Yeah, you actually play it more than I do at this point. But Rumor Gatherer, 3 mana creature. Whenever another creature ETBs under your control, scry 1. If it's the second time, you get to draw a card. You cast a creature, you're making a token, you get to draw a card. You're scrying 1, drawing a card.
Yep. Nope. I was thinking different. I was thinking of your last deck, and I was like, wait, does this fit in there? I was like, no, it's creatures. It's not. It's not. Yeah. Okay.
So it's really cool. Song of the World Soul. Whenever you cast a spell, populate. So basically, you're going to be making token copies of token copies.
Got it.
And then another way that you can be going is something like Witty Roastmaster. This is the perfect colors for it, but whenever you have a creature ETB, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. You have all of them, that you could do. I didn't put them all there, but
you have the options.
Perforos, there's War Leaders, yada yada, that just came out. And then there's the one that everybody likes, the 2-mana enchantment. But you could pack them full, this deck
Impact
full
Tremors?
of that and win.
Yeah.
Yeah, Impact Tremors, yeah.
Oh.
So,
all right. So we had how many cards there? Boop, 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 boop. 10 cards. What was our total?
Came in at 1944.
Ooh, you were close.
Yeah, I got a lot closer there on that one. There
Closer.
were some that I was surprised about, but still not mad.
Nice. All right. So now we move into
Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited, and you have 9 cards we're dealing with here. Yeah, you are in white, so I'm not surprised that you would have this in there.
Yeah. Anointed Procession. There's 2 others that are going to be doubling tokens that you possibly could be doing, but this doubles tokens. So if you're going to make tokens, right?
Keep going. Yep.
Delny, Streetwise Lookout. This one I want to say is like $10-11 at this point.
Wow.
But basically creatures with power 2 or less are going to double trigger on their ETB in this deck, but it's pretty sweet. So you're making a 1/1 copy of anything that you're doing, it'll double trigger on the ETB.
And that's really what you're focused on. There is other stuff to it with the attacking and stuff, but you're really more on the ETB side.
That's what I'm... Dark side.
Yeah,
well, make 2 copies of it? Come on. Come on.
Yeah, that's silly. You're just getting lots of
So-
that. Oh, I should probably change this out of the Phyrexian. Let's use...
That's right. That's the cheapest version. So, but Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, doubling the ETBs along with stopping the ETBs from your opponents. It works in here quite a bit.
For sure. Ooh.
You have Cloudstone Curio. So that's whenever you have a non-artifact permanent ETB, you can return the
similar type, shares a permanent
similar type. So you cast a creature, bring the non-token version back of another one that you played, recast that, kind of a juggling version of what's going on, and just get more ETB triggers. An oldie but a goodie, Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker. That's on about $5-6 right now, but if you want tokens, you can make tokens, copy tokens of it. Comes down having haste. It's probably going to do a lot of work in this deck.
You put in here too. For some reason, we like this card. If you guys don't know, we have
Lifeline. You kind of glossed over it a little bit, and I don't fault you for that. But basically, what happens if you have a creature die and there's any creature in play, it gets to be removed until in a turn it comes back into play. And now, so if somebody wraths the board and nothing lives, your creatures die. But if you're like, sacrifice this, or it dies in combat and you still have something left over, it's going to come back. And it's a great way to protect your creatures from anything but wraths. But also, in this kind of ETB deck, you're happy with creatures dying because they're going to come back. You don't get the Offspring ability because that is a cast trigger.
Yep.
But you're still getting more ETBs off that.
Right. And if you have a way to sacrifice in response to somebody, doing a board wipe, you sacrifice all your creatures because your creatures left the battlefield. All that resolves. They see that there were creatures on the battlefield. Now the wrath happens. All the creatures that are left on the board are gone. And they see that there's nothing else on the board, and then yours come back and no one else has anything. So Lifeline is a very fun card. We like this card a lot. We have mentioned it for now 6 years or whatever we're on.
Yeah.
Just nonstop.
As often as we can, I guess.
It's a good card. I don't know
another
this one.
Nesting Dovehawk. At the beginning of combat on your turn, populate 2/2 flyer. Whenever a creature token ETBs, you get to put a 1/1 counter on it. You're a token deck. You want to populate. It's going to get huge. This is a $10, $15 card at this point.
Yeah. It seems pretty
it's
solid.
a good one.
Yeah. And then this one has gotten cheaper. It could almost fit in yours deck, but you were at 19.
Well, it's $5-6.
Is it?
Still.
It just keeps getting printed like crazy.
Still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you're making 1/1 tokens on those copies. Why not get 2 draws out of it if you want to sacrifice
especially if they're an ETB effect, that they're done, they've had their ETB, Now let's get rid of them and draw more cards. So
Draw
I
more
like
cards,
that. Yeah.
cast more spells.
All right, I dig that. All right, guys, if there's anything else you think that should be added to this deck, please let us know in the comments below. Now we're going to move on to the last deck here. Let's go nuts for squirrels. All right, so the squirrel.
That was good. Did you plan that?
Nope, I just said it. All right, so Squirreled Away is the commander that we're working, or the deck we're working with here. It's Hazel of the Root Bloom is our face commander for this deck. It is 2 colors, a black and a green Squirrel Druid, and it has tap, pay 2 life, tap X, untap tokens you control, add X amount of any combination of colors, and at the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If it's a squirrel, you get double that. So, a couple things in here. There isn't a lot of sacking in this, and it feels like there's a lot of cards in this deck that want you to sack things. So that's the part I'm like, I didn't get, because I'm like, where's our sack outlets? If you want all these, because it's like, hey, when this guy dies, you get a squirrel. And I'm like, okay, cool. How do we make him die? You know, because they know we want squirrels. We want to get double the squirrels. So that was one thing I noticed was lacking. I didn't see really a lot of win cons. They did an interesting one. They did
squirrels.
Well, I know, but they did Ilhar, or not Ilhar, Raise Boars. So instead of, it's the cheap poor man's Crater of Behemoth. So that's the one that gives them all X plus X, or not X, like 2+2 trample, whatever. You remember those, the Raise Boars? What I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I spec'd on it thinking they would go up. They didn't do anything. Anyways, and then the other thing is, if your deck is built around, hey, you want things to be sacked, why not take advantage of when your things die? Not only do you need to add the sacking in there, but you need to have some things that take advantage of your stuff going to the graveyard. It's a sack deck in a way.
Right. What I'm feeling is that you don't like the precons you looked at. Like, they did a shit job building them.
Well,
that's what it seems like.
It just, I guess it's just not the way I would do it, you know, and it didn't, I felt puzzled at sometimes, like, why are all these cards in here if I have no way of getting rid of them besides, like, blocking and having them die? Like, that, if that's what you're counting on, cool, but that sucks. Because people aren't,
the timing isn't how you want it.
Right. You're working, yeah, exactly. That's a good way to say it. Then you're working more on other people's time and not yours. Like, you're not able to plan. It's like, well, I hope they block this 1/1. Why?
And generally, when somebody's like, okay, so I can't attack you with this 10/10 because, I mean, and maybe that's the idea, is that you don't get to attack and then you don't get those tokens. But then your commander doesn't do anything. Like, if it's so like, oh, I can't attack them because they're going to get 10/1/1 squirrels.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
okay. So the one thing I would say is, Hazel is good.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they want you to go to Chatterfang because Chatterfang has the sack part on it, you know? So it's like, it's almost like to make this deck good is all you have to do is take Chatterfang and switch with Hazel. But that's not the point of this. We're trying to help.
So somebody at Wizards of the Coast built a
Chatterfang deck with
a budget Chatterfang, and then like, hey, make me a new commander.
Right, because Chatterfang's in the damn deck, so it's like they want you to play with Chatterfang. But anyways, let's fix that a little bit here. All right, so I added 11 cards in this. I didn't go with. I'm giving ideas of things, kind of like you talked about in the last one. I didn't go full on like, hey, get Blood Artist, get this, blah blah blah. But get Blood Artist. Let's take advantage of when your creatures are dying to sacking. You can go that route by making everybody lose 1 life and you gain 1 life, or that one's target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So you could do those kind of effects. I didn't add all the other ones in here. There might be 1 more or 2 more in here if I did do that. But I didn't want to go, hey, all of them do this. Let's get more on the sacking. So then, talking to the sacking part. Now, granted, this isn't I like the ones where you can do it all the time, you know, like any point, instant speed. But Braids is a good way to potentially get some advantage of it. So at the end of your turn, you have tons of tokens. Let's sacrifice one of those creatures that will give you a squirrel if they die. And then if no one sacrifices their creatures, you're drawing cards off of that, and they're losing 2 life. So you're it's an advantage. I have this commander. You hate this commander. It's kind of brutal.
It's a really good card.
Yeah. So, and I wanted to check one thing because both of these are at the end step. So yes, you can stack it the way you want. So braids, you have your squirrel make a copy of any token. Oh, I do want to add one note. They did do a good job of like not just going, hey, we're just going to have this whole deck be squirrels. They have rats, they have treasure, they have, I think, clues. They went with tokens because that's the cool thing about its ability is you can tap X untapped tokens. It's not creatures, it's tokens. And then you get mana, and they have bigger casting stuff. So they planned that out right. But I almost think to make this better is, like we mentioned in the other one that I did, focus on something. If not one thing, two things, but let's not focus on 7 things. You know, then it just, there's too many things going on at once. And so that's what this deck kind of was lacking. If you're doing this, maybe focus on the squirrels because there's a lot of Anthem effects that you could use to win the game with squirrels. Anyways, okay, so back to this. When you get to your end step.
Well, and actually it makes sense to have Chatterfang as the commander again because you're making all these tokens, right. But if Chatterfang's there, you're also making squirrels.
Right, yes. So the end step, you can create a token copy of one of your creatures, right? So you can do this first, and then that one you make, sacrifice with braids, and then take advantage of all that. At the worst, people are sacrificing their creatures, and that actually helps you out. So braids is a really good add in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
I did add the one not commander. Well, I guess it could be a commander, but one of the squirrels from the set proper gives you that. What is it? Other squirrels have menace, so you get a little bit of evasion. Whenever you sacrifice food, you get a squirrel. And then what is it? Forage. So when you forge, is that what it is? Forage. So that's removing, right? Forage. No, isn't forge with no A in there? So it's forage.
Go forage for food.
Yeah. So you exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food. If you do that, you put a 1/1 counter on each other squirrel you control. So if you went heavier on the squirrel side, I think this one you'd want to plug in there. Same with for the common good. I mentioned this, or maybe I didn't. Did I talk about this in a top 10? It's not in the top 10. But the cool thing I think about this card is that 1 green, you just really only have to pay the 1 green, and then your tokens are indestructible until your next turn. You gain 1 life for each token you control as well, but you can keep it's sorcery speed, so it's not protection necessarily, but it is if you wanted to swing in an all-out attack. You can just tap 1 green, and then all your tokens have indestructible. You swing in and attack, you have your indestructible stuff, whatever, and you're gaining life there too. But you could make squirrels if you wanted. Or no, it's tokens.
Right. I feel like what you would want I agree. Only 1 green sounds really good to be able to just swing in with indestructible. But I feel like this is something that you just like pay, like have a good army, pay as much as you can for the token that you want, attack with what you have, and have indestructible blockers.
Yep, that's
sit back too.
Yep, that's a good point too. Yep. So just paying that a little extra, get some blockers.
So either way, I think it works.
Yep. One of the cheaper lands right now. This was on my top 10. Fountain Port. So this one you have the tokens, so you can use your tokens to draw a card, sacrifice. There's a sack outlet because we can sacrifice our tokens, drawing cards, or you can create treasures. But really, I'm more focused on paying 2 and this to draw a card by sacking, and it's giving you a sack outlet, so I like that. Growing Rights of Itlamok, you're gonna have lots of creatures. This is gonna flip over to a Gaia's Cradle. When you play it, you're gonna look at 4 cards, get more creatures into your hand, and then your end step, most likely, this is flipping over, and then it's just crazy, bonkers stuff. One of your little underdogs for Modern Horizons 3, but Marionette Apprentice. So whenever a creature or an artifact you control is put into the graveyard, so yes, okay, this was the second one, and I guess we're Mirkwood Bats. Each opponent loses 1 life, so I like this better than Blood Artist, obviously. Like it's just it's doing more. I think this is the better card. I mean, it's the same casting cost and all that stuff. You're not gaining a life, but you're hitting every opponent. I like spreading the wealth around. Mirkwood Bats is just fantastic. Any token decks, you need these in there because you creating tokens, they're losing life, and sacrificing tokens, they're losing life. It's a beast. This one was on your top 10, Season of Loss. So the cool thing about this is you are making tokens. Let's tap 5, and I would utilize sacrifice. Oh, I'd probably do what we talked about when we talked about our 10-10 or our top 10. Do the 2 and then the 3. You're gonna wipe part of their board, everybody's board out. You're gonna draw 3 cards off of sacrificing stuff, and you have sacrifice. The thing that this deck wants to do is sacrifice some stuff, so you're getting advantage with that. Smothering Abomination. Beginning your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. Whenever you sacrifice a creature, draw a card. So I mentioned that earlier. And then our free sack outlet, Viscera Seer. Why did I stop? That just gives you the opportunity to do
One.
You can't even read.
so this is our free sack outlet. Love these. It does have Woe Strider in here. So that's the one that is a little more expensive, but it creates, if it dies, it turns into 01 or whatever, but it does the sacrifice thing too. Anyways.
You get some goats.
Goats.
You get goats.
Goats. That's
Some
right.
ETBs.
Okay, so 11 cards. The total for this deck, I'm right on the border again, $19.87. So
Very nice.
yeah, you can get all these cards for just under $20.
Mr. Unlimited.
Mr. Unlimited part. Oh, we got 15. I'm gonna burn through these pretty quick because it's a lot of like sacrifice. So Alter Dementia, sacrifice. Ashnod, sacrifice. I think Attrition should be in this deck. It's a good way to get rid of threats on the board. Awaken the Woods, I think would be really good because it's tokens and their land. So this one I did want to like point out a little more because you're getting lands that are tokens, but then you're also getting those. Oh, except they have to tap. Yeah, they have to tap. You got to tap the untap. I was thinking you could get double on this, like by tap X, untap token, so you wouldn't be able to do it twice. But I still think.
Why can't you? Do they come into play tapped?
No. Because if you're gonna tap these for mana and then try to utilize the other, you can't. Yeah, it was like.
But I mean, you can still pay out the X.
Yeah.
And then tap your commander and tap all of those creatures for mana again.
Right, because they do have summoning sickness. So yeah, that's a good point there too. So you could do these that come into play. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's
so I like
the nice thing about that card too is that one thing that hurts about tokens is like when they leave play, they stop existing, and so Cyclonic Rift really hurts you. Whereas Cyclonic Rift does not return lands.
Yeah.
So those would stick around.
There you go. Black Market Connections. Holy crap, this fits so well in here because you're making 2 types of tokens if you want, and you get the draw in there. So you get your treasure and whatever token you want there, every token type. Of course, Crater Hoof. We have the budget one in the deck. Let's get the real one in here. This is where it would really make a difference. Doubling Season. You could do a bunch of Doubling Season type effects. You're in green, so you could have Parallel Lives. You could have whatever else you want.
Yeah, I mean, Parallel Lives is cheaper. You don't have 1/1 counters in here, right?
Yeah, so you could.
So,
but I just did Doubling Season as the face of all those token doublers. Finale of Devastation is the same thing as Crater Hoof. Grave Pact, you could go that angle where you're sacrificing, making everybody else sacrifice. Mazarek would be an actually really good add to this because you're making all those squirrels. Let's get them bigger as you're sacrificing your stuff. And then Pitiless Plunderer, get treasures for your sack. Meat Hook Massacre. Let's do some things when they're being sacked and all that. And then the last 3 Tree City. So that's one of the new cards.
Yeah.
If you are leaning like this deck by itself, probably wouldn't be good for this necessarily. But if you just went squirrels, or just squirrels, then that one would fit in here better because then this taps for a lot more. Torment of Hailfire. Why did it? Oh, I was like, why did I put this in here? Because you're generating a ton of mana by tapping down your tokens. This would be your game winner. Yeah. So this is why I was like, why the fuck did I put that in there? That's why, because that's what your commander does. And then Yawgmoth, let's give a free sack outlet ish by sacking your stuff, and then you can draw off of sacking your stuff. So that is everything. That is all the decks.
That's it.
We got it. Just over an hour. Not bad, buddy.
Nice job.
All right. Let's get out of here. Laura, you want to give us our tags and we'll skedaddle?
Yeah, we skedaddling. We're the Commander Smiths. We do a podcast generally every Monday night here on YouTube. July was not accurate in that saying, but we also do deck techs. We do the Precon upgrades every set. We do our own deck builds. I'm building Mr. Foxglove here in the next week or two, and we're always trying to stay busy. We have some shorts, like we pick out underused cards. We do proxies. We have a Patreon. We have a Discord. If you are interested in any or all of that, message someone, the YouTubes or whatnot. It doesn't have to be us. Somebody will point you our way, I guess, as well, right?
Find somebody on YouTube. You guys know the Commanders? No, never heard.
So, but yeah, look for the Commander Smiths everywhere, anywhere, and yeah. Is that it?
Yeah.
That's everything.
That's it. All right, guys. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you guys later.
Good night. Bye.
God
damn it. Hey, Meat Force, could you kindly tap the like and subscribe button? And if you're ever in the mood, head on over to commandersmiths.com and you can get the shirts and mugs you see on the screen and some other stuff. Thank you.